Jake Doolittle has become the textbook example of self-sabotage. He had everything a YouTuber could ever ask for, from a steadily growing channel to a loyal audience that loves their content. But it didn't take long for him to throw it all away. The moment Jake dropped his Ethan Klein expose video was the exact moment he made the biggest mistake of his career, with his video sparking questions such as, where do you draw the line between critic and hit piece? Is it when you blatantly accuse someone of lying to their audience?
As a viewer of the podcast, if I were to stand back and watch Ethan lie, saying certain things about his health that are just straight up misinformation, then I would be doing a disservice to an entire community.
Or maybe it's when you frame their medical concerns as tactics to profit from their viewers.
Klein claimed to have lupus, made money off of it, and then admitted that he made everything up and self-diagnosed himself.
Either way, making harsh claims like these will always have repercussions, and Jake found this out the hard way. The craziest thing about Jake's situation is that he had what most failing YouTubers don't. A second chance. But as you'll learn in this video, he threw it all away in spectacular fashion. Jake began his YouTube career in December 2019, but he was already making a name for himself by leveraging his past work with major creators and influencers, with uploads like working with Charli D'Amelio and shooting for Justin Bieber. Jake knew the best way to get his name out there was to attach it to people with platforms much larger than his. This also became the foundation for one of the most popular series on his channel, in which he exposed other, often bigger creators for things like deceiving their audiences and plagiarism. And while some label Jake as a morally grandstanding hypocrite, this approach to creating content catapulted him from 500 to 250,000 subscribers in a little over 2 years. Most fans also really loved the content, with many commenters thanking him for shining light on these issues. Now, it's important to note that the thing that made these videos good was Jake's neutrality. Most of his criticism of these creators revolved around easily provable facts, and wasn't influenced by his own feelings on the matter.
Because there are articles saying members of the autistic community call out period A rapper Brit Barbie for allegedly faking speech impediment. And so all these people have duetted it. It's this whole thing. So this guy is interviewing her, and then in the middle of the conversation, she switches to this.
Yeah, it's okay because...
But started out by saying this.
That all changed in December of 2023, when Jake released his hit piece on Ethan Klein, one of the hosts of the H3 podcast. It was clear that this particular video was fueled more by a personal grudge than a factual analysis. Little did Jake know at the time, this was about to become the biggest mistake of his entire career. However, to fully understand Jake's reasoning behind uploading such a video, we first have to rewind to his first interaction with Ethan, back in 2021. You see, Jake was working as a photographer for influencers at the time, and in August of 2021, Jake released a series of now deleted tweets accusing Charli D'Amelio of making millions of photos that he wasn't properly compensated for, with tweets reading, "I can't think about anything but the millions you made off my photos. Lol, I feel like people are misconstruing what I'm saying. Nobody asked to use my photos. I was never told the photos would be in the book. A credit in the book means nothing when they don't have your permission," as well as "me when I never got paid for photos." The situation was only intensified by the numerous articles and Twitter pages covering the story, which eventually landed Jake an appearance on the H3 podcast. During their interaction, Ethan offered Jake a listening ear and $500 for the photos he wasn't paid for.
Here's what I want to do for you though, Jake. I think the D'Amelio family could pay you like $500, right? And then you'd be happy. I mean, I'm now it's a whole different thing. Now it's a whole legal shit. I don't know. But stay on the line. I'm going to send you $500 because the D'Amelio family didn't.
Stop it.
The D'Amelio family didn't pay you $500. I'm going to pay because they're cheap fucking freaks.
And while Jake appreciated the generous offer, he also wanted something else from Ethan.
If you look over my resume, can you keep your $500?
Stay on the line. Are you in LA?
He did say he was subscribed.
I'm not in LA. I'm remote, but love
You're
is killing
Maine,
it out of
bro.
Sweden. I bet you I could kill it.
Okay, so stay on the line. I'm going to give you the 500. I'm going to give you the 500 to make you whole. And remember, D'Amelio family, Ethan pays on time.
That's right.
And also send your resume. Stay on the hold. We'll get both, okay?
Jake was clearly a longtime fan of the show and wanted to use this chance to secure a spot working for Ethan. Unfortunately, all Jake received was the money he was promised and a new blueprint for content creation on his own corner of YouTube. And that's where the things ended between the two, or at least that's what it looked like on the surface. On the 13th of December 2023, Jake made a community post stating, "A YouTuber with millions of followers pretended to have chronic illness, profited off of it, then said they made it all up. New video coming soon." This left viewers speculating on whether or not his next upload would have Ethan as the primary focus. The wider H3 community and subreddits were obviously against this and tried to get Jake to reconsider his decision, but he was determined to go through with it, and by the 29th of December 2023, he published a video titled "Ethan Klein, Harmful or Hypochondriac?"
I saw a few very concerning things when it comes to Ethan Klein's lupus journey. And as someone who's been sick his entire life, I felt like I needed to make this video. If I were to stand back and watch Ethan lie, saying certain things about his health that are just straight up misinformation, then I would be doing a disservice to an entire community. Ethan Klein claimed to have lupus, made money off of it, and then admitted that he made everything up and self-diagnosed himself.
Right off the bat, Jake was framing himself as an authority on the topic of chronic illness and condemned the way Ethan went about his health inquiries. Jake went on to detail the various instances of Ethan referring to or sharing aspects of his medical reports and testing. At the same time, Jake berated Ethan for not pronouncing medical terms correctly and for using ChatGPT to further understand test results.
Saying that an elevated tryptase relates to leukemia is like saying that sneezing relates to sinus cancer. Ethan states that he went to check on his cholesterol levels and then seemingly read his own lab results and self-diagnosed himself based off of Google searches. He goes on to talk about a more recent test result that came in. This test is the one that Ethan runs with throughout this entire journey.
My Anna titer. This is also like leukemia and lupus and shit.
First, Anna titer makes no sense. The part that Ethan calls Anna stands for anti-nuclear antibodies. It's an acronym that Ethan pronounces Anna instead of ANA like most every medical professional does. This also adds to my claim of Ethan searching his labs and not hearing the results from an actual doctor due to the mispronunciation. According to the Mayo Clinic, in most cases, a positive ANA test indicates that your immune system has launched a misdirected attack on your own tissue. In other words, an autoimmune reaction.
According to Jake, the fact that there were elements of self-diagnosis in Ethan's approach to determining whether or not he had lupus, a disease that occurs when your immune system attacks your own tissues and organs, meant that he was spreading misinformation and harming others that suffered from chronic illness. The three main arguments that Jake made in his 40-minute long video were that 1. Ethan was misinterpreting his health data, therefore spreading misinformation. 2. Ethan was profiting off the supposed illness by collecting $1,500 in donations during the stream. And 3. That Ethan was flat out dishonest about having any illness. Many viewers felt that Jake's arguments were made in bad faith, and the like to dislike ratio on his video reflected that. However, an unhealthy dislike to like ratio was the least of Jake's problems, because when Ethan and his team soon returned from their short break, they were more than ready to address the accusations being made. At the start of the new year, Ethan shared an Instagram story that foreshadowed his reply to Jake, reading, "My face when I'm excited to return to the podcast tomorrow." Not long after, Jake left his own Instagram story begging for the backlash to stop, reading, "I'll do anything to make this stop. The death threats, telling me to kill myself and saying that I was never sick in the first place is something I cannot handle. I was trying to make a video from the perspective of a sick person and it didn't connect with everyone. I was in hospital last week after posting the video. I legitimately cannot handle anymore. I apologize to everyone involved." Regardless of how much Jake wanted this to all be swept under the rug, he had already made his hit piece and was going to answer for it. Fans of the podcast were expecting a complete massacre from Ethan, and that's exactly what they got. On the 8th of January 2024, Ethan and other members of the H3 podcast went live. But before they could react to Jake's video, he set it to private.
Oh, he just private it. Well, it's too late, bro.
Oh,
Too
is
late.
it now?
That's true.
No, it's too late.
This was likely a last-ditch attempt from Jake to be spared from the consequences of his actions. Unfortunately for him, Ethan's team had already downloaded the whole thing, and they wasted no time tearing into every second of it. Ethan started off by giving viewers some background into who Jake was, and what he's been up to behind the scenes.
The really interesting wrinkle is that this guy's been a huge fan of ours, and actually there's been a ton of interactions of him trying to reach out and get noticed and get attention from almost everybody on the crew.
He also shared screenshots of Jake's repeated attempts to connect with various members of the H3 team. According to Ethan, Jake even went as far to approach team members of the H3 podcast in person and tried to pitch his ideas. Put simply, his video on Ethan was nothing more than a petty tantrum after being rejected from working on his podcast. Ethan also pulled up a downloaded version of Jake's video and began debunking each one of his points one by one. From dismantling Jake's arguments of self-diagnosis to pointing out the blatant bad faith at the core of the video, Ethan was presenting his side of the story and made it clear that it wasn't some joke or cash grab, but a man desperately trying to understand his health status. To top it off, Ethan possibly donated more money to the people suffering from chronic illness than the amount Jake claimed he took from viewers. By the end of this 4-hour podcast, Jake had completely shattered the trust and credibility he had built with his audience.
This is the worst takedown video ever. I mean, dude, shame on you. And you had so many chances to not do this. The preview, AB, from us, saying, dude, this is not going to work out good for you. Trust us.
Now, this could have been the end of Jake's future on YouTube. But after facing intense criticism from all corners of the internet, he did something that saved his career from total annihilation. He apologized. On the 18th of January 2024, Jake made a 3.5-minute video titled My Recent Video, which was intended to be an apology to Ethan and everyone affected by the video he previously made.
My intention was to stand up for a specific group of people, but instead I came across as an asshole. I didn't consider how my words would affect others, and for that I'm very sorry.
Now, this wasn't a perfect apology by any means. He left out a lot of things that should have been addressed. For example, Jake didn't acknowledge his accusation that Ethan misled the audience for personal gain, nor did he explain why he took it upon himself to act as the champion of the chronic illness community. But as a commenter pointed out, it was a step in the right direction, reading, "I think apologizing is a great step in the right direction, except you left out so much. Wish you put more effort into addressing specific things you said rather than general statements. Feel like that would go a much longer way." And while it didn't undo the damage that was already done to his reputation, it gave Jake another chance to prove himself. He had an opportunity to earn back his core fan base with quality content, and that's exactly what he did. He went back to his old factual self and started making videos on creators who deserved the criticism, like Sniper Wolf, Jack Doherty, and the vegan teacher. It seemed like Jake took the time to reflect and learn from his past mistakes, and had finally reached a healthier mindset. He even proposed to his girlfriend in November of 2024. Things were finally looking up for his most loyal fans. That is, until the 14th of December 2024, when he threw away the little credibility he had left with a single video. At a first glance, it looked like a typical Jake Doolittle video. It was titled, "I'm frustrated with commentary YouTubers," and had I'm Alex and Cody Ko in the thumbnail. This led everybody to believe that his video would be a deep dive into the darker side of the commentary YouTuber community, like I'm Alex mentally and physically abusing his girlfriend, which I talked about extensively in this video, or at least something along those lines. But as it turned out, the video had absolutely nothing to do with Cody Ko, I'm Alex, or any commentary YouTuber for that matter. It was 100% clickbait. Now, this on its own would be enough to enrage most viewers. However, the actual contents of this video were somehow even more infuriating, leaving even the most loyal fans completely outraged at Jake. But before we dissect this video, we need some important context. You see, Jake had been struggling with chronic illness since he was just 3 years old. The pain from this illness forced him to either use a wheelchair or crutches for the majority of his life. He even raised almost $3,000 through a GoFundMe campaign to find a cure for his illness back in 2016. However, even worse than the illness was the fact that he'd been misdiagnosed multiple times, resulting in his condition getting even worse over the years. Eventually, his own situation inspired him to start a charity in September of 2022 called Never Stop, with a fairly straightforward mission statement. Never Stop is a charity for the diagnosed, the misdiagnosed, and everything in between. Our goal is to provide financial assistance to people in long-term financial and physical crisis. It has also raised over $12,000 for people in need. So, assuming the proceeds of this charity actually reached the needy, it was 100% a good thing and no one had any issues with it. That is, until Jake, in all his wisdom, ruined the reputation of his charity with his video titled "I'm frustrated with commentary YouTubers." As I mentioned earlier, this video wasn't actually about commentary YouTubers. Instead, it was about his charity and how no one was making any donations to it.
There has been no YouTuber who has ever inquired or donated any money to Never Stop.
Giving him the benefit of the doubt, perhaps Jake believed that he was raising awareness for his cause and charity. However, to call his execution poor would be a complete understatement. The whole thing came off as a tone-deaf attempt at guilt-tripping his audience and other YouTubers for not being charitable enough. And one viewer summed it up perfectly. Quote, "I've had people who unfollowed me and lost the opportunity to change lives. What a goober. I've never in my life seen a YouTuber guilt-trip his former audience for unfollowing. Like, this is beyond pathetic." Throughout this video, Jake also came across as extremely entitled, and that he somehow deserved other people's money. This became glaringly obvious when he talked about knowing YouTubers with plenty of money who, despite their wealth, weren't donating to his charity.
A lot of these YouTubers love talking about holding people accountable for their wrongdoings and all that kind of shit, but when I try to say, hey, if you have any extra money, we are giving $500 a month. I know that you just put on your close friend story that you're making 15 grand off this brand deal. Hey, I would love the help. My views are down, but you're getting, I don't know, 50,000 subs a month. What are we doing here?
And sure, even this could be dismissed as just a horribly worded plea for donations. But then, Jake stooped to something that could only be described as the lowest of the low. He tried to blackmail other YouTubers.
I'm not going to name names, but I would like you to know that I am going to name names at some point, possibly next month or so, if my following up with these people amounts to nothing and I keep getting ghosted.
In other words, Jake essentially threatened to publicly name and shame YouTubers who refused to donate to his charity. This, combined with the fact that his charity was only helping a single person at a time, made people who would have donated otherwise in the future turn their backs. The response to this was perfectly summarized by a commenter under the video, which read, "This is effing yucky. Donate to my charity or else." Like, does he understand that most people wouldn't be enticed by "we help one person per month" right now, and they don't have a long history of running and navigating the challenges that come from these organizations? And as if this wasn't bad enough, he even tried to insinuate that the YouTubers who weren't donating to his charity were dumb, because they didn't know they could deduct the donation from their taxes.
Within the last 6 months, how come other nonprofits that are doing between $10 and $30 million a year in donations are willing to talk to me, but these fucking YouTubers cannot give $500 in a one-time payment out of their, I don't know, 50 grand that they're making a month? And by the way, all of this you can write off on your taxes. I don't know how many times I have to say this. These are people who are getting a shit ton of money and will not know what to do at tax time. And this is a way to offset that fucking tax bill. But I guess there's no knowledge there.
And to top it all off, he even admitted that he made this whole video because he was petty.
Because I'm petty and because this isn't about supporting me, it's about supporting people who need the support. I'll give a bunch of examples about how YouTubers have ghosted me and not wanted to help with Never Stop.
As you might imagine, the backlash to this video was immediate and immense, resulting in Jake deleting the whole thing in less than 24 hours. At this point, there was nothing he could do nor say to make the situation better, so he decided to make it worse instead. A day after the original video, Jake went live from his phone and said that he was going to clarify the original video and address any concerns the viewers had. In reality, most of the stream was him talking about how bad his life was and how this was his 10th knee surgery.
I'm about to schedule fucking 2 more knee surgeries. I have no. No. It'll be like my 10th and 11th knee surgery.
If the same thing was said by Jake from early 2023, he would have been showered with love and support from his community. Unfortunately, his own actions had destroyed any sympathy people had left for him. with one viewer writing, "It's pissing me off that you can't stop mentioning your health. We don't care. It's pretty easy to not blackmail people for money, and your health isn't an excuse." Some even speculated that he deliberately timed the charity video right before his surgery, so he could use it as a shield against the backlash he knew was going to get for that video. But despite the overwhelmingly negative response from his viewers, Jake wasn't done. He made one last attempt at saving his dying career. On the 15th of December 2024, Jake uploaded his latest response to the controversy, simply titled "Addressing Everything." But despite the almost 30-minute length of this video, it doesn't contain anything that could slow down the barrage of backlash being directed at him. And while some of his viewers are fuming with anger, like this one person who wrote, "Why did you clickbait using violence against women? You specifically used faces of commentary YouTubers known for mistreatment of women." Besides the entitlement of others' money, the assertion that the only way for rich people to do some good is to give it to you, then you clickbaited with Cody Ko, an alleged racist, and I'm Alex, an abuser. Why would you do that, Jake? The vast majority of his fans were simply done with Jake and his future content. They already gave him a second chance after the whole debacle with Ethan, and even cheered him on as he went back to making good content that people wanted to watch. However, clickbaiting his viewers, blackmailing other creators, acting entitled to their money, and refusing to take any accountability for his actions is a step too far for even his most loyal fans to justify. He is desperately trying to ignore the backlash and continue posting like nothing happened. But as it stands, I don't see a way for him to make a second comeback anytime soon. He'll most likely end up becoming irrelevant, just like what happened to Nuz Daily